So I think we're in business. So the way this is going to work is we will work through an agenda. So I'll go over that in a second. We're going to be trying to make this a little bit more interactive than we may have had on Crowdcast, just due to some the way that the tech is set up. So the cool thing about Discord is this is going to allow people to actually come up on stage, similar to what you may have seen with Clubhouse. So if you have a question, I believe you can raise your hand. And the format we're going to use is that we'll do kind of like a topic. So we'll run through an agenda that I will post here in the chat on the left. So if you see the community call chat, I'm going to paste the agenda here. And this is where you can chat as we go through, ask questions, what have you. And when we go through each topic, so the KAR claims, for example, the KSM transfers, as we go through this, we will stop and let you guys ask questions on each topic as we go through. So we will have Q&A throughout, and then of course we can end with a little Q&A. Our team personally has a hard stop right at the top of the hour, so we're going to try to make this happen within the next hour if we can. So with that, I think let's do a quick round of introductions. So I'm going to go from left to right. So Robin, do you want to start off and just introduce yourself for people who may not have met you yet?
Sure. I'm Robin Whitney. I'm Growth and Community Manager here at Acala and Karura. And you may know me if you're in the Ambassador program, but you definitely probably seen me kicking around some of the channels here for Acala.
Cool. Betty, you want to go next?
Yeah, hi everyone. This is Betty calling in from Auckland, New Zealand, co-founder of Acala.
And then last but not least, Ruitao.
Hi everyone, this is Ruitao, also co-founder of Acala. I'm also calling from Auckland, New Zealand. I'm actually in office now. Nice to be here.
Cool. It's really great to do this new style. And I wanted to add on that in addition to raising your hand to be invited to stage here in the community call stage, feel free to ask your questions in chat. I know some people like to type out their questions, and we'll keep an eye there. If there's any accompanying visuals like slides or links, we'll post them in the community call whiteboard. And before we get the question a bunch, this is being recorded and we will share it on the Acala YouTube.
Awesome. So I think let's just dig into this agenda then. Betty, Ruitao, do you want to go into the KR claims process, who this applies to, maybe how to go about doing that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I've posted a launch phase in the whiteboard area. Hope everyone can see. Just putting in some context there. With checking off all the boxes there, we are now moving into phase 3 of our launch phases. And you can see phase 2, the only thing left is claiming KAR. And then we've basically done all the rest of the technical verification, enabling KSM transfers, and also enabled governance with democracy, which we'll talk a little bit about later on. So I think right now there are 1,600 people who participated, not on our website, not on partnered exchanges, probably directly via the Polkadot web application or some other non-custodial wallets. So they didn't actually read or agree to our terms and conditions. So you will still have to do so to claim your reward. So please do that before 18th of July, because after that point, we will be going into an upgrade process and we're removing or disabling Sudoku on the network, and then it's going to disrupt this automatic claim and distribution process. So if you can do that before 18th, so you still get it, automatically distributed to you. Yeah, I think we can. I think there's a documentation that I can also post in here. Yeah, so please share this information around to others who may or may not be aware of this process. and do claim your rewards. So yeah, that's all. Back to you, Dan.
Yeah, and I just got the link to the KR claims page. So for people who this does apply to, I'm gonna paste this, or actually Betty did already. Cool. So that, from my understanding, Betty, this applies mostly to people who went straight through Polkadot.js, so not the Karura site, and also for people using Fearless or Math Wallet. Is that correct, just to summarize?
Yeah, mostly. You can just go onto that site anyway and then see if you've got anything to claim if you're not sure. Yeah.
Okay, great. I guess so. That's the first topic. Does anyone actually have questions on that before we move on? Feel free to raise your hand. Try to keep your questions on topic if you can, and at the end we'll do kind of an open Q&A. So someone's asking if this applies to build Acala. So the answer to that is no. Those should have already been distributed. And then Volhar is asking if K are transferable yet, and the answer is no. We'll get into a little bit of that in terms of next steps and what are coming in terms of the launch process. But there don't seem to be too many questions, so I think for now we can comfortably move on to the next topic, which is around KSM transfers. So as you may have seen if you follow Betty on Twitter, it's been about, I think, a few days, if not a week, since on a technical level you could transfer KSM to Karura, which is what you need to do in order to use KSM on the Karura parachain. But since then, the team has kind of completed the initial UI to be able to actually do this through an easy-to-use website instead of kind of at a technical level. So Betty or Ruitao, do you want to go into any detail on what that means and how people can do that?
I think, Ruitao, you can talk about why we should transfer KSM to Karura, right?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm pretty excited about this one. I mean, this is actually, in my opinion, the first trustless cross-chain transfer between two networks. So you are able to transfer Kusama from the Kusama relation to the Karura network in a trustless way, and you can also transfer it back. All the logic is governed by code and not a single party. It's the way that I describe it as trustless is that no one can stop that, no one can able to censor that, and it's fully trustless. So there's a number of benefits of why do you want to transfer Kusama to Karura. Well, there's actually a number of benefits. For the very first time, you are able to trade Kusama in a trustless way once the Karura DEX is open. So you're able to trade Kusama versus the KAR pair. You're able to trade Kusama with other token that will be available in the Karura DEX. And as some once, if you are a slightly advanced type of player, you can also provide liquidity in the DEX. You can provide liquidity in the Kusama to the Karura KAR pair. You can provide liquidity in the Kusama KUSD pair, which I imagine will be one of the most popular pair. You can also provide liquidity to whatever pair that you feel comfortable with. And once we gradually enable all the functionality, when I say enable, I mean the functionality is already there. We'll just make sure that we can safely launch those functionality. You can do unlock additional utility for your Kusama, such as like minting the liquid Kusama token, so you can earn staking reward while still make Kusama transferable. You can also borrow against your Kusama position by taking out a loan. You can do liquidity mining, which is super exciting, which we're going to announce very, very soon, maybe in next community call or in the upcoming community calls. So I think, in short term, there's already utility you can unlock with your Kusama, and in short to medium term, there's actually more exciting stuff you can do with your Kusama once we enable all the functionality of the Karura network.
Now in the agenda, we say common experiment. Ruitao, can you share a little more about what we mean by that?
Well, I mean, there's I'm already experiment on the chain level. So if you are a nerd, you can already transfer Kusama from Kusama to Karura using the Polkadot.js exchange it, execute our code. That's very for nerds only. But now we have fully enabled the UI, so it's make it very, very simple. You can just go to app.karura.network to do the transfer. It's always good to experiment and to get familiar with the transfer process, such as like, hey, maybe I would test with transferring 0.1 Kusama first and see how it goes. Get yourself familiar with this process, and when we are ready, and when we think it's a good idea to start transfer some of your Kusama into Karura network where we can already offer additional utility, then we will call for another campaign to ask people to transfer Kusama and then to start to earn on Karura. But for now, I think the come and play and just get yourself familiar with the UI that we created. I think it's already quite user-friendly. Make yourself familiar with the process, how you, it's very similar to how you deposit Ethereum or our token into a smart contract, but it's totally in an inter-blockchain level.
I'll also add to that is all in all, Karura is a canary network, right? So it is early unaudited release of the code, and so there's gonna be quite unstable probably, and also there could be chaos happening. So that's why you don't put all your life savings on the transfer wire. So just try it a little bit, and then also learn how to check the transactions and stuff. So we in the guide we only provided the user side of the operation, but we put up a little bit more nerdy stuff there for those who are keen to figure out how exactly things are working. You can still track the entire transaction flow from Kusama to Karura and back by yourself, right? Without relying on the application that we built as an example. So yeah.
I saw someone just request to speak. Do you want to test out this functionality right now, or do you want to leave it in the later Q&A session?
I'll try it right now. I just sent the invite to you, Shariful. And if anyone here wants to come to stage, you can raise your hand and we'll invite you to stage. You just have to accept the offer to come to stage at the top of Discord. And then we'll call on you and you can ask your question. So Shariful, please take it away.
Hey, hi. Will there be any possibilities for IPO voters for Acala to get backed KSM just to try out the product?
So,
I think
so I think the question was, can you get rewards for testing out the product, trying out the product? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. So Ruitao mentioned the liquidity mining program. So that's, I think, as close to what you're asking about. So go ahead, Ruitao, if you want to explain that a little more.
Betty, would you like to add something?
Yeah, Betty.
Yeah, so I think there are a number of things at play. So right now, when the products start to roll out new features, right? Being able to transfer your KSM and then later being able to trade your Kusama tokens, that's us providing additional utility for all the Kusama holders, right? So that's one side of it. And then the other side is if you do want to participate as a liquidity provider, for example, there are returns that are built into the design of the liquidity pool. So in the link that I haven't shared, but I'll share later, talked about Karura Swap, how you can become a liquidity provider and how are the returns are calculated and where do they come from, right? So those, you should definitely read about and then see if that's something that you want to try, because there's also risks involved in any return that you will get, right? So because we're talking about DeFi protocols here, so please do read all of those information that we provide, and then just ask questions if you're not sure. And these are the baseline of where the product is at, right? Because we cannot rely on 2,000% of APY to just lure the users in. That's just not sustainable and probably not the right way to kind of encourage users. So we have built in sort of the sustainable return that comes from the protocol to share all of those with the participants. So that's the baseline. And then Ruitao mentioned there's a liquidity program that's coming. Right now there's no liquidity program being turned on. Once we have more pools, once we've got stablecoin, Bitcoin, and then there will be liquidity mining program. So that's additional reward on top of all the baseline stuff that you get from the protocol itself. So I'm sure we can share more information or details in the next days or weeks. Yeah, I hope that helps.
All right, thank
Cool. So I think Shariful's question's answered. I believe the next one was EH Rab money. Do you wanna? There you go. Hello?
We hear you. If you're on stage and your name ends in money, you can go ahead with your question. We can hear you. Your mic's on.
All right.
Okay, we might move along. Sorry, we're having connection issues with you.
Next, let's go to let's try Tyler B.
I just say,
Hello?
can I get up?
Sounds like we're having some issues there. Let's try Mel P.
Or MEIP? Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hey, welcome.
Hey, thank you guys for having this community call. We greatly appreciate all of the efforts that you guys have put through.
Oh, you're welcome. It's cool. It's a kind of a new format to experiment with, so you'll have to let us know how you like it.
I kind of like it already, but
Cool.
I'll leave that also to the others to opine. But just to clarify, I think Betty has already partially answered my question that the liquidity mining pool will be open. I think I assume that it would be after 48 weeks when the Karura or the Acala, when the Kusama crowd loan has concluded and the KSM tokens has been released. Is that correct, the assumption?
Those are separate things. If you have participated in the crowd loan, well, first of all, thank you. And then your KSM is locked on the Kusama chain. We just can't touch it, right? So after probably less than 48 weeks now, then it will be automatically returned to you to the account that you contributed them. So yeah, we don't touch any of those KSM at all. So that's a separate thing. And then. Yeah, and then right now we're more talking about now we've got a slot, right? Thanks for your contribution. We've got a slot. We're operating our parachain, and then the next function that we're going to turn on after transfer. So first of all, we turn on a transfer. You can send your KR to your friends or your other wallets, etc. And then the next thing is we're going to turn on the swap, the DEX. Right, and then the DEX is a automatic market maker, so it's consists of two pairs. So imagine you can have KSM trading with KR pair. So that's probably the first that we're going to turn on, and that's why we are talking about. Right now, you can actually transfer some of your KSM from the Kusama chain to the Karura chain, and then just get ready when that function get turned on, and you can get in there to trade, or more advanced, just become a liquidity provider. But yeah, either there's also risk associated with that. So there's quite a bit of reading material that we've provided. So hopefully, you can learn a bit more how to get involved and how to trade. So.
Got it. The second part of my question is just wanted to ask, once the liquidity mining functionality has been enabled, will there be an option to have insurance for the assets?
Oh, Ruitao, you can answer that.
Well, there's the DeFi insurance is still a very young and growing sector. So far as I know, there's a number of insurance providers on Ethereum. So Nexus Mutual being one of the premier insurance provider. I think Insurance Ace is the second player that has actually a working product that can cover it on such as smart contract risk or base layer risk. I would say that at some stage, once Karura mature to some states, which is in very short-term future, we're already exploring with a number of insurance providers to provide coverage for trading on Karura. It's definitely coming in. It's definitely possible. We just need to make sure that we bootstrap this network successfully, and there's activity on top of that to make sure there's enough this coverage can be developed. So yeah, fairly soon, not now, but fairly soon, you should be able to purchase coverage, insurance coverage from the leading insurance provider.
Oh, great to hear that, Ruitao. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks for the questions, MeIP. Let's go to Nick Lab H. Nick Lab.
Hey Dan.
Hey.
So, as you guys will be enabling governance on Karura, it would be great to get some contextual information about the proposals and referendums. So, are you guys thinking about any tools? I can see there are a couple of tips and one proposal already being done on Karura.
Yeah, so actually it is quite a historical moment for us right now because yesterday we've just put up the first proposal discussion on discourse. So that will, well, for now, that will be our avenue for discussions and providing, feedback and gathering information. So I'm sure we can put a link there to show the first sort of proposal, and then everyone can share. So there's there are details in there to tell you, what the proposal is about. So the current proposal is a runtime upgrade, and then that upgrade actually consists of disabling Sudoku, so disabling the admin key of the platform, and that's the sort of the transition point for us to move from phase 2 to phase 3, where after we remove or disable the Sudoku, we are entirely stored by the on-chain governance, through the referendum, through the council oversight, etc. So that's quite a historical, I guess, upgrade or proposal, and later will get turned into a vote for everyone to actually participate to, put in your opinion. And then the second thing that will included in the upgrade is transfers. So once we disable the Sudoku, then we'll safely enable transfers amongst everyone, and you can send tokens across to each other. And alongside with that, there's also other more technical changes in the upgrade, but you can all see that in that discourse forum post. And we also provide a way for everyone to verify the upgrade proposal, because on the blockchain, things are all represented as hash, right? So you can say, include this upgrade and these are the changes, but everything is converted into a hash, so it can store it on the blockchain. But we provided a way for you to be able to, do your own homework, and then check the content, and then verify the hash that's the same as the on-chain one. So this is the sort of the process that will go through everyone. But every single proposal might be slightly different. So, but this is the first one that you can see there. And then also in the sort of the governance process, there's various different parameters that you probably can go and learn a little bit about. For example, in the governance, when you participate in the democracy, there's a launch period. This is where we are at currently. So I'll just post a link there. You can read more about it. So the proposal is going to go up there as a proposal form. You can certainly second it. The highest, if it's the only proposal, then after 2 days, it's going to become a public referenda, which will be, happen in about 2 days, right? Obviously, everything is measured in blocks, so we can't say exactly what time. It depends on the block time. And then after that, you go into a voting period, which is probably another 2-ish days that everyone can vote. And then after that, there is a enactment period where, because all the logic is already on chain, if everybody, voted and then the proposal passed, then the execution will also happen on chain. So you will actually see the disabling of Sudoku and also enabling transfers on the blockchain itself after a certain period. And then when that happened on the block, well, no one can control after that point, right? So we can't stop the proposal after it's being voted in, and it will just go through. And then once it's being executed, then all these functions become available. So that's roughly how it works. There are some, more parameters and how you can actually propose a referendum, also how you can vote. More importantly, this time is how you can vote. Is all in that link there. So I hope that's helpful. And this is something quite new. So we are gonna kind of like learn and improve along the way. So.
Yeah, this is actually the topic we want to cover in the agenda. So about the governance core, about the governance of the network. I want to make sure that everyone check. There's actually two channels. Besides the current live stage, there's also the whiteboard channel that you can check all the materials that as we speak, we post the relevant link into the whiteboard. There's also the chat channel where you can ask questions in the text form. The actual democracy or the voting process of electing a council member or the electing many staff in Polkadot, in Subscan, in Karura is very, very novel way of, I would say, a much better way to delegate your votes and to choose someone to work for you. So this we might host another topic. It was a whole session of discussion to explain how things work, so how you can vote for a number of candidates and how can they get elected. The reading material is already in the link, but maybe we don't need to go too much detail onto how people get elected or how community council members get elected, but it's actually quite fascinating if we talk about that.
We have some questions, maybe really quickly, since we kind of went through governance. Some folks are putting questions in the chat, and I know Ruitao, you answered already, but how can community members run for a seat on the governing council, and when do we anticipate those kinds of elections taking place?
I think we always aim for the progressive of decentralization. It's like we are launching a brand new network. We put some training wheel on, and then once we're confident, we will let the training wheel go, and then it will be completely back into community hands. For now, we don't have. If you follow the roadmap, you can see how if you look at the roadmap, you can see how we plan to completely enable democracy, and how can someone get elected in the council seats, or how can someone run for a seat? It's very similar. It's already happening on Kusama and Polkadot. If you actually look at Kusama's council, and then if you look at Polkadot's council, those are already elected by token holders. We don't have a set date of like when we can fully enable democracy, but I think it should be coming very, very soon once the network is mature enough to allow that to happen.
Yeah, I just add there in the roadmap. That's actually in our phase 4 of launch, right? So if we check all the boxes on phase 3, and then if it actually meets the criteria that we set for ourselves, these criteria are mostly for the benefit of the network. So that the protocols are bootstrapped, right, before we actually taking a back seat, and the network has sufficient liquidity. And then, there's already a good transparent process for all the protocols and governance happening on chain. And then also there's experts that are already sitting in some of those counselors. So, if we take a back seat and then anyone can become a counselor, at least we have some experts, for example, risk assessors, some technical assessors. So, if you propose something that's going to be detrimental to the network, at least some experts can be there to stop that from happening, right? So I think we got to have a balance of being just letting things go highway versus having some governance oversight, especially with expertise there, so that we don't we can still store the network together, right? So I think there's a good balance there that we set up in the process. Hopefully once we get to phase 4, all of those elements are set up, and we are very comfortable, like everyone will be very comfortable to just let go and then go into the phase 4 of the democracy. So I hope that helps.
All of the commentary on the strategy for for moving through phases, and then our plan with progressive decentralization. I think that's probably a good segue into the agenda item regarding the technical work and how we've kind of been approaching what's been done and why certain things have taken some time.
Yeah, I can start to comment on that, and then all the other people can start to adding their share. So I think to make it very clear, all the functionality that you have seen on the Mandela testnet has already been developed. So the whole Karura network, the code is already developed. When we actually launch the cloud launch, the Genesis file contain all features needed to become the DeFi hub of Kusama. But to build something and to launch something is slightly different, such as like if you build a rocket, if you want to launch the rocket, you still need to put it in the launch well. You still need to look at what's the right time of the day to align the stars or stuff. So we are just careful to make sure that we have a successful launch. So for example, the very first time we become a parachain, and this is the very first in history, we need to verify the code that we run in the testnet for 2 years actually work on the real mainnet environment. So that's take us a week or so to verify everything works. We definitely do not want us to launch the network without actually giving any form of test. The other is that we make sure that once the technical verification is done, we also need to make sure the network can upgrade itself. That's one of the most fascinating design of a substrate network is that you can have forklift upgrades. You can have the code back in the token holder's hand. So we also did a number of upgrades on that. And now we are in the third phase, which we are comfortable that we can upgrade the network. The network cannot be bricked, and we will start to enable the functionality one by one. So I think that's the context of like, hey, why it takes some time for us to verify everything works before we turn on the switch. But now you can see the very first vote already is coming in that we are going to turn on the switch on transfer. And then once after that, very soon, there will be the DEX, stablecoin, all the functionality will be turned on one by one on-chain.
Well, this might be a good time then to start taking some questions. We have a few people on stage here. Inevitable, I think you've been up here for a while. Do you have a question?
Yeah, hey, I hope you guys can hear me.
Yep, you're good to go.
Thank you so much for having this. It seems very personal. Talking on text is rather impersonal. So my question is regarding the liquidity pool that you were talking about, Becky. Could you give an ETA on what's like the ETA when would you guys be starting that off? And since there are other crowd loans happening, so maybe that would give me a better understanding of how to manage my KSM. And what all pairs do you plan to put in the liquidity pool?
Okay, I will probably start to answer that. So for the liquidity pool, actually for KSM to get into Karura and to liquidity mining, there's actually a number of avenues that you can earn. I'm going to share like what is possible and when it's coming soon. So what's possible is that you can earn, you can provide liquidity in three main categories. You can use KSM as collateral to make stablecoin. That's the very first category. You can use KSM and other token as pair to provide liquidity in the DEX. That's the second category. And finally, you can also mint liquid KSM, which is like participate in our trustless staking pool and have an tokenized asset for your stake position on Kusama. So all those three main categories is the main category that you can earn liquidity rewards, mining rewards. I think the very first one will come is definitely the DEX. We are going to enable the DEX first. And for the DEX, there's actually a number of pair that you can provide liquidity to. The very first pair that will be available in the DEX will be always the KAR to KSM pair. And that's the very first pair that we'll make available for trade. You can definitely provide liquidity on that. And I think that's it's going to be an experiment, or it's going to be one of the pair that has some unique characteristic behind them, because like it's none of the both sides of the pair is not a stable coin, and we imagine there will be some liquidity, but it's probably not the most liquid trading pair in the DEX. Once that pair has been proven to be working, then we will enable the stablecoin protocol, and there will be KSM to KUSD pair, and there will be KSM to KR pair, which we imagine that is likely going to be the most popular trading pair. If you look at Uniswap now, you can see that one of the most top trading pair is always stablecoin versus Ethereum. So we think the KUSD to the KSM pair is very likely going to be one of the popular trading pairs as well. So we're going to enable all those pairs step by step, and then we will add liquidity rewards as we are ready to provide additional incentive to provide liquidity in those pairs. So to make it clear, you can earn double reward. You can, as you provide liquidity in the DEX, you already earning the liquidity provider fee, and then once we enable the liquidity mining program, there's additional incentive you can earn by providing liquidity into those DEX pairs.
Cool. Well, hopefully that answers the question. I'm going to call in Blit85. You've been here for a minute.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, welcome.
Good one. First off, thanks for having the call. I echo previous caller sentiments. I like the format. Second off, really appreciate all the hard work you guys are doing over there. You had a chance to play around with the transfer protocol today on the platform, and I had a question. I saw Betty's. I was wondering how we would be able to find that on the blockchain or on subscan. I saw in your Twitter post, Betty, that you had a way to search for the transaction, but it was a little grainy, and I couldn't really see it. So I was wondering, I might be jumping the gun here, or I might be talking off topic, but I was wondering if you would be able to show that at some point.
Yeah, I've provided some very preliminary way in the wiki how to check it. It's actually not very easy right now. We are actually building subquery that we can integrate the transaction into our app so that you can just see it once you've done the transfer. But in any case, if you are sending coins from Kusama down to the parachain to Karura, then there's one transaction happen on Kusama and then the other one on Karura. One is via the XCM pallet, and then the other one is just the parachain system dot downward message. And then there's no easy way that you can just search your message. You kind of just have to monitor it. That's why I think using a subquery type of way that we can automatically kind of like mine that transaction out for you will be easier. But certainly you can track that yourself. When you're sending the coins back to Kusama, then you will see the X token message or event happened on the Karura chain, and you can see it with your sending account. And then when you go back to the Kusama chain, then you can find it on the Kusama subscan just under the account that you're receiving it, and you should see an XCM pallet transaction. So yeah.
I just shared two links to subscan on the chat channel. There I did some tests this morning. So there's actually one message from Kusama to Karura, which you can see exchange it from executing on the relay chain, and there's also the Karura to Kusama exchange executing on the Karura. Both are subscan. It's not easy to understand, and that's why we built a UI around that. But you can just check on those.
Thank you.
Thanks. Let's go with Hunter. Hunter, you're one of our ambassadors, so yeah, feel free to ask your question.
Sure. Hey, everyone. Thanks for the call. Thanks for calling on me, Robin. My question is more at the ecosystem level and more vision related, but one of the things I'm most excited about with Kusama and Polkadot is the interoperability aspect, given these blockchains can speak to one another. So just curious, I don't know if there's much you can say about it, but is there anything in the pipeline or anything at all that excites anyone on the team about the prospect of interoperating Karura with other blockchains on Kusama, be it Basilic or Acala or Bifrost or any of the other chains? If there's anything you can speak to about that That'd be really cool for me to hear, and I'm sure others on the call as well.
Yeah, I think I have a lot of to share about the possibility, and this is actually why we are so excited about this. We call it composable network, right? And then set up different specialized network able to work with each other. I can put up some examples of like what is possible with under this technology. So let's say we build Karura. It is the DeFi hub. It is the DeFi foundation layer for the whole Kusama ecosystem. We provide financial primitives such as stablecoins, staking, directive, or things like that. And how can we compose with other network to provide additional utility for the wider ecosystem? So there's a number of ways. If you look at, I'm not going to say names, but if you look at one example that I'm always use is that if you look at a privacy network, and if you can add a composability layer between the Kusama, the Karura network, and the privacy network, then you start to have a privacy stablecoin. You start to have privacy Kusama. You start to have privacy liquid Kusama. So that, in a sense, is already a huge step forward than comparing you composable with on smart contract level, because you can have special functionality work with each other, and that's ultimately the way that we're pushing as we move forward. It's all about showing new possibility of what can be done in this new technology. And I mean, that's one of the possibility. And in terms of like the existing parachain team, we are pretty much in contact with all of them. And then we're exploring all different ways of collaboration that we can work with them to have some form of composability between different network. At the bare minimum, I think tokens should be transferable between all different parachain. Right. So at the bare minimum, hopefully there will be liquidity in the Karura DEX to trade different parachain token at the bare minimum. And there's other teams, for example, there's I can just randomly think about one. So Zygas is running a prediction market, right? So you can already see that, hey, if you are running a prediction market, can you use the KUSD stablecoin as the betting currency, because you don't want to bet in both. You want to bet in the event, but you don't want to bet also on the up and down of the price move from Kusama as well. So yeah, there's a lot of possibility that can be explored, and I'm super excited about the new functionality that can be achieved using this form of composable, interactable networks.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, Adam, you've been up here, so please feel free to introduce yourself and ask your question.
Thank you. Well, my name is Adam. I operate a Kusama validator node, and I've been a part of the Kusama ecosystem since late March. So I'm kind of a new adopter, but I'm loving it. So thank you for having me. So I just want to start off by saying that I believe in Acala, and I'm very proud of the work the developers and the leadership are putting in to bring a robust DeFi environment to Kusama. I also want to say that I'm coming from a spirit of improvement and concern for both Karura and Kusama. So I don't mean any hostility. So with that said, I want to bring your attention to the YouTube video of the crowdcast on April 1st. So at 17 minutes, Dan says in the context of the auction, and I quote, "This is where we would actually, as Karura, go in and earn that slot. And then all of our DeFi applications, our platform is ready. Teams can begin building on Karura, or users can begin coming in and using all the products that we've built." At 31 minutes and 28 seconds, Betty says, "As soon as the network launches, you'll be able to start using some of these products." So it is my opinion that these comments clearly suggested that DeFi products would be available upon the Genesis block, because the launch of a blockchain network, by definition, is the moment the Genesis block begins ledger. So here are my questions. Do you feel like Acala misled expectations or overpromised on the timing of the availability of Karura's DeFi products? Was Acala's perceived optimism a marketing strategy to encourage crowd loaners to loan their KSM to Karura for the first auctioned slot? Did Acala specifically clarify that Karura's DeFi products would take weeks to bring to the users at any point before the crowd loan? And if so, can you point us to those publications? And if not, why didn't you clarify that Karura's DeFi products would take this long to develop and implement? And I know that's a very long-winded question, so I'll go ahead and post the text to the chat. Thank you.
Whoa, thanks for the question. By the sound of it, you've participated in the crowd loan, Adam?
Yes, that's correct. But not a huge amount. Yeah, but I did what I could. Because like I said, I believe in Acala. You guys are great. Like, I think you guys are real ones for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah. So I think one thing as a context, right? So what we are building here is not one smart contract, not even 3 smart contracts. That you can just, like Gavin wrote the entire Ethereum in 3 weeks and launch the entire network. What we're building here, like Kusama and Polkadot, first of all, it is a blockchain in itself, so it's an Ethereum in itself. And then second of all, we're building 3 protocols on top of it. So that's, everyone knows now that's, the DEX, the stablecoin, as well as liquid staking. So that took about 2 years before we launched at this point to build all of those software, right? So it's not like we get a slot and then we start developing all those protocols. So we have already developed and also tested all of the protocols on our testnet, and everyone who's I guess, tried all the protocols on our Mandala knows everything is functional, right? So I think that's probably the context to start off. So everything has been built and also tested, and most of the code has been audited, except for the newer features that we've added in later on, right before our launch. And then also, we also had an economic audit from Ganglet to set parameters and also assess our economic viability for all the protocols. So those are all done before the crowd loan happened. So I hope you appreciate those work being done rather than, I hope you understand that we didn't actually start building all of those after the crowd loan. So that's one thing. And then the second thing is, I think before we start the crowd loan, we've already got the roadmap of how we are going to launch the network, right? Because I understand if you were in other ecosystems or just a simple smart contract, a launch could mean very different thing to a blockchain or the blockchain plus protocol launch like Acala, right? So because Acala and Karura is probably an entirely different category, it is a application specific blockchain. So it's got the chain element in it. It also has multiple protocols in it, so it's quite complex. So that's why we know that it's very hard to communicate in words, right? Because when I say launch, you could think Genesis is launch. Other people could think transfer is launch. And then other people could think you have to enable all the collaterals on stablecoin is launch. So launch could mean different things. And then also, in reality, launch is a process. It's not a black and white from 0 to 1. So that's why we have that Notion page. I think we've put out a number of times. If you haven't seen it, maybe someone can post it again. So in there, we have laid out 4 different phases. That's even before the crowd loan starts, how people participate. And then during the crowd loan and also after the crowd loan, there are 3 phases for us to turn on various elements on the chain. So that includes the technical aspect. We didn't dwell into too much detail because we know people are not interested, but that's also an important element for us to make sure the chain actually produce the blocks correctly and it can upgrade correctly, which is the foundation of all the cool stuff that you see on top of it, right? For us to get to the stage where, you can turn on, transfers, turn on cross-chain transfer, and probably next week the DEX. There's a lot of underground work that we have to do to make sure it's working, right? We can be less responsible, I guess. We can be more reckless. That's a choice. We can be more reckless and just turn everything on. Maybe 3 days after we won the crowd loan, we could do that because if you look at the code, all the DEX code, if you go to the Polkadot web app developer section and then under extrinsics, you could see DEX, you can see stablecoin, you can see, so all the code already there, right? So we could just flip a switch and turn everything on. But you might just lose money, right? Because when you do a transfer, things could fall apart, and they may or may not be our problem. That could be Kusama is not producing block for a parachain correctly, or something else, right? So I guess even for Karura, it's chaotic. We still took some preliminary checks, I guess, and trying to be as much cautious as we can to actually verify everything before we let things out of the door. Even at the current stage, you can see last night we launched the Karura application. Even though we had the app for 2 years, right? Well, a year and a half probably. It still took us to last minute changes to make sure, at least at the surface, things are working fine. But even this morning, we still find a lot of issues on the app, so we have to continue to improve and then fix bugs, and then also get feedback from you guys, what is working, what is not, what we can change to continue to kind of make it better, right? So it is a process. So it did took 3 weeks for us to get to this point, but I guess. Can we do it quicker? We probably could, but we'll probably have a lot more bugs and issues happen. I don't know how you choose, but we kind of chose the route that is a little bit more, I guess, stable approach, a bit more responsible approach, because it is the first time ever. I think this is the first time ever someone launched a parachain with so much functionality that get turned on one after another. So so that's the approach that we chose. So hopefully with all of those contexts, you have a better understanding our way of thinking and how we approach it. And hopefully, and we also hope to do this kind of community call more often so that we can clarify things better in the future. So I don't know if anyone else wants to chip in.
I mean, yeah, I would love to add. I was talking to someone in the community yesterday about this and kind of expectations with the timeline of bringing on all of these. It's an all-in-one platform with so many DeFi operations. So it's a huge, heavy lift. We obviously want to do it right. And we joke a lot, that Kusama has the brand of chaotic and it's chaos. But, actually what we're doing in this launch, in launching a network, is a very thoughtful approach. The team is working to make sure everything is functioning, to make sure that all of these thrive off of each other. They work well and will be able to be healthy and sustainable for everyone to be able to start adding funds, doing DeFi strategies. I do think that maybe we're constantly learning, and this is kind of the value of the Kusama to Polkadot structure. In launching Karura, and then we'll launch Acala, we have this opportunity to do this, initial, structure where we're able to see how things are going and learn, make these key learnings about how it is. We're able to apply and kind of finesse our strategy, not just for the applications themselves in development, but for how we're talking with community, how we're doing calls, how we'll be bringing governance online and scaling that. So, I just want to say, I love this kind of feedback, and I love that you feel like you can talk with us on this call, because the opinions, as I mentioned yesterday in the chat, they don't go into a vacuum. We document, we analyze, we meet, we have meetings to discuss it, and we incorporate it into the next initiative. So you'll probably see things kind of come in pairs around here. Maybe the Build Acala token event, and then there'll be a Ready the Treasury event that's also related to Build Acala. Obviously, we have Karura, and then we'll have Acala. We are, thankful, I think, for having this kind of opportunity for this feedback, so we're able to learn from what we could do better. And if that's a matter of managing expectations or making sure that we're considering audiences who are coming in with different technical knowledge, that's definitely something we're growing and working on. So I appreciate that, Adam.
Yeah, and we've got 5 minutes left, so I'll keep it short. But no, Adam, thanks for the feedback. I totally see where you're coming from. It sounds like partially you had just a lot of excitement and you were waiting on this day one and the products to launch immediately. But as Betty and Robin have both explained, this is it's the first parachain ever to launch. It's much different than launching things on testnet. And in the comment you mentioned, yeah, I did talk about how the products were ready. The products have been ready, like Betty said, for 2 years, but this launch process just takes a little bit of time. And aside from that, I think I also mentioned in your quote about teams building on Acala or on Karura. We've actually got a team building on us right now. Our technical teams are going back and forth, and we're actually getting ready to make that announcement. So you should see very soon that teams indeed are building on Acala and Karura now with the tech that we've had ready over the last couple of years. But with your comment, I definitely will remember that and take that into consideration when we're talking through how to word these things to the community. And this day one language may have been misleading or confusing to people, and I totally get that. So thanks for the feedback.
Thank you so much. That's really all I wanted, is just some ownership. And it sounds like you guys are truly owning your actions and are looking out for the best for what's best for the community. So thank you so much. I really do appreciate that.
Thank you, Adam.
Cool.
I think
Thank you.
Yeah, I think this sort of question is what we actually appreciate and we actually love. We try to share everything in a fully transparent way. It might have, and as Robin said, we're learning this process. For us, it's super excited to be able to launch a project, and we know the code is already there. When you launch the Genesis file, the code is there. You can verify that. I just wanted to say it out on this call that we are so happy that we are probably the only parachain team that launched, upload the Genesis version file with the functionality in it. Because we didn't just launch a shell chain. It's fully enabled. It's a fully developed chain with feature disabled, just to make sure that we can enable this safely. We will learn from this and try to manage the communication in a much better way to let people understand, oh, well, it means that it's ready, but we still have a launch process to go.
Cool. Well, thanks, Adam. And thanks, everybody. We got to probably wrap it up. We've got a couple minutes, maybe a minute and a half. So we covered a lot today. If you want to kind of recap of what we talked about, you can go through the whiteboard where we have links to the KAR claims process, the KSM transfers and how that works. We went through governance and referenda, and then we also talked through the technical kind of work that's been done so far. The one agenda item that we didn't get to was the overview of the collators. We are going to be doing these calls at the same time every week on the same day. So over the next coming weeks as we go through this launch, we want to just get a little bit of a regular schedule with these. And if you can't make it, we will be recording these and putting them back up on YouTube. So we'll be sending out information on the one next week, and we'll go ahead and add the collators topic to the call next week. But yeah, thanks for everybody who came up onto the stage. I think we had consistently around 100 people and a lot of chat in the chat as well. And would love your feedback in general on how you thought this format went and any changes or improvements we could make going forward.